Hi, my name is DJ Elliott, and I'm going to tell you about the famous minority British author J.K. Rowling. Or Rowling, I'm not really sure. Most people have said Rowling, so I'm going to go with Rowling. Now, whether you love her or hate her, you cannot deny the massive influence and impact that she's made in literature, culture, and entertainment as a whole over the years. Her Harry Potter novels have sold hundreds of millions of copies worldwide. They've been adapted into some of the most popular and highest grossing films of all time, some of which are still being made today. By the way, this video is gonna have Harry Potter spoilers, if that's a thing you care about. Everyone and their mother has heard of Harry Potter. But what about the story of the woman behind it? J.K. Rowling, also known as Jo, was born on July 31st, 1965 in Yate something I do not know how to pronounce, England. At an early age, she was already constantly interested in literature. To quote her, "I lived for books. I was your basic commoner garden bookworm, complete with freckles and national health spectacles." Not only was J.K. Rowling reading at a young age, but she started writing incredibly early as well. She wrote her first book at the age of 6. It was about a rabbit. It was called Rabbit. At the age of 11, she wrote her first novel. It told the story of 7 cursed diamonds and the people who owned them. For college, Rowling attended Exeter University, where she received a bachelor's degree in French and classics. The information learned here proved useful to her later when writing spells for the Harry Potter novels, which are based in Latin. However, something that she has talked about many times in past interviews and such is the fact that she did the majority of her reading during that time outside of the class. She borrowed from the university's library so frequently and became so compelled by the books that she accidentally racked up 50 pounds in overdue fines. That's equal to $65 and 57 cents. She also lived in Paris for a year. You know, for college. In the year 1990, J.K. Rowling had the idea for the Harry Potter series while waiting on a delayed train from Manchester to London. She thought about it for hours on end, but she didn't have a writing utensil at the time, so she scribbled down everything she could think of as soon as she got to her flat. In the middle of the writing process, Jo's mother, Anne, passed away.
The death of Joanne Rowling's mother was to have a profound effect on her writing. In many ways, the whole of Harry Potter is one giant attempt to reclaim a childhood.
You think the dead we have loved ever truly leave us? You think that we don't recall them more clearly than ever in times of great trouble?
I'd been writing for 6 months before she died. The weird thing is, the essential plot didn't change after my mother died, but everything deepened and darkened. Harry was always going to lose his parents, and it was always going to be a quest, really, to avenge them, but to avenge everyone against this creature, this being who believes that he can make himself immortal by killing other people. So that's something I created before she died, but yes, it seeped into every part of the books. I think, in retrospect, now I've finished, I see just how much it informed everything.
As you can see, Jo's personal life had a massive influence on her work. Over the 5 years following that, Rowling continued to plan out the entire series and to write the first installment. During this time, she moved to Portugal to become a teacher. She got married, had a kid, got divorced, and moved back to the UK. Crazy. When she had the manuscript for the first novel complete, she sent in the first 3 chapters to several different literary agents. In what Jo called the best letter she'd ever received, one of them wrote back saying that they loved it and wanted to see the rest. Finally, in June 1997, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, renamed in the US version, was published by Bloomsbury Children's Books. The name J.K. Rowling was used because their publisher was worried a female author would scare off an audience of young boys. Kids are sexist. The K stands for Kathleen, her grandmother's name.
So tell me, what was it like when you saw your first book in the shop?
That was the best moment of all. Better than anything that has come since was me seeing it, and it was a real book in a proper real bookshop, and it was wonderful. It really was.
Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is the first of many books Joanne has planned.
The rest is history. All of the Harry Potter novels published since were a massive success. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire broke all book sale records in history the day it came out. As you are likely aware, Warner Bros. Has released several film adaptations of the novels, the first being in 2001. All 8 of them are in the top 100 highest grossing films of all time, the highest being in 11th place. Parting ways with writing Harry Potter was something that Rowling found surprisingly more difficult than she expected. And yeah, That's J.K. Rowling's life. Here's Damien.
My name's Damien Patton, and I'm doing J.K. Rowling's impact on British literature. J.K. Rowling is most famously known for her Harry Potter book series that grew traction rather quickly. She released her first book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, in the late 90s. When fantasy stories were no longer on the up and up in literature world, the popularity of her books have led to other fantasy series being created, such as Twilight, The Hunger Games, etc. She soon grew in quick stardom in the eyes of children's literature with her newfound addition of magical elements to the fantasy world. The children of the 90s grew up with reading about Harry Potter's wild adventures and created an everlasting bond with the characters within the series as they matured at the same time, and books were released almost every other year.
The thing that I really liked about the story was the friendship. You know, I like the owls and the boarding school and the magic and Hogwarts, but it was the friendship between the children that really moved me.
The books had such an effect on literature that it didn't really categorize itself as just for children. Many adults found themselves reading the series as well, enjoying it as much as the next kid. Reading wasn't really seen as nerdy anymore. It was considered cool to be seen reading a Harry Potter book. Her works not only inspired people to read, it inspired schools and universities to incorporate more genres of books like fantasy that could both entertain and educate students. In 2010, Durham University in the UK focused on the works of J.K. Rowling and required undergraduates to set the series in its social, cultural, and educational context and understand some of the reasons for its popularity. They also worked to consider Harry Potter's relevance to today's education system. Rowling's series brought attention to relationships between different stigmatized groups and paved the way for more inclusivity in not only fantasy but throughout all genres of literature.
I suppose I have a real need to go and create a different world in my head. I just do. I'm driven to do that, yeah.
And was that why Harry Potter was what it was? Because you needed to create another world?
Yeah, and then I brought all the problems from this world into that world too. But it was a great way of examining those problems, to do it in that parallel, seemingly more, seemingly safer place. And it wasn't really safer at all.
J.K. Rowling has also impacted British literature in a way by showing future writers a way to make an effective impression on people and their work. Her writing allowed for more authors to be more comfortable with incorporating people of different backgrounds into their respective genres and still make it both indulging and still have the capability of teaching the reader something. And according to Business Insider, the stories may take place in fantastical worlds, but its relatable themes get kids thinking positively about the earth they inhabit. With her works, Rowling has shown upcoming authors how to both create a fantasy world from imagination and still be able to relate it to our lives in order to affect a child or adult in some type of way. Her writing has psychologically been analyzed to aid children in being able to establish better emotional and social skills in their everyday lives, and it's a writing skill that she has certainly passed on to future writers.
But a girl asked me at the launch of The Casual Vacancy in London, she said to me, do you write only when you're inspired? And I said, no, because I would have written a page and a half.
Exactly.
You know, and I said to her, you've got to, I mean, it's people, some people don't want to hear that about writing. You're not sitting there taking dictation from from an angel.
Exactly.
You've got to work.
It's
about structure. It's about discipline. It's all these deadly things that your school teacher told you needed. You need it.
All right, my name is Carson Keeley, and I'm talking about the theme Death in the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling heavily promulgates the theme Death throughout the series Harry Potter. In every book, there is the embodiment of death, whether it's the death of the character or the realization of death and how it can impact the lives of fictional characters and resolve the ongoing conflicts. Death increases in every book, from Harry's parents' death in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone to the defeat of the main villain Voldemort in the final book, Deathly Hallows.
Harry Potter is an orphan living with his cruel aunt and uncle. On his 11th birthday, Hagrid tells Harry he's a wizard.
I'm a what?
A wizard!
And that his parents were killed by the evil Lord Voldemort. Harry mysteriously survived the attack, with only a scar on his forehead. Quirrell's there,
You?
with Voldemort on the back of his head. Harry defeats Quirrell just by touching him.
Are you a ghost?
A memory.
Tom reveals that he was the student who grew up to be Lord Voldemort. He summons the giant serpent that's been petrifying people to kill Harry. Instead, Harry kills it with an irate phoenix and a magical sword. A dangerous murderer named Sirius Black is on the loose. For Harry, it's personal. Black was the one who betrayed his parents to Voldemort. Lupin and Sirius want to kill Pettigrew for his crimes. Harry steps in. Says his parents wouldn't want them to be murderers. Touching the trophy transports them to a graveyard. Oops. Peter Pettigrew is trying to bring Lord Voldemort back to life for good. Since Harry defeated him in the first place, he plays a role in the Dark Ritual. Cedric, on the other hand, is unceremoniously murdered. They encounter a small army of Voldemort's henchmen fighting the Order of the Phoenix, including Sirius Black. The Prophecy Globe is destroyed in the battle. In a heartbreaking moment, so is Sirius Black. Voldemort himself arrives to confront Harry. Dumbledore, the only wizard more powerful than him, teleports in at the last moment to save Harry's life. Draco corners a weakened Dumbledore, but he can't pull the trigger. Severus Snape, whom Dumbledore always trusted, steps in and kills the headmaster himself.
Avada Kedavra.
The last of Harry's protectors is dead. Whoa. Voldemort broke into his tomb and took it for himself.
So why does the theme matter? Its significance is that it brings reality to the world of fans dealing with death from a mortal perspective. In the article Life and Death in Harry Potter, The Immortality of Love and Soul by Andrea Stojakov, she explains that Harry Potter is a boarding school novel, but even more so of an adventure story, a detective novel, and a gothic romance, and medieval legends, and as such features death and dying from the very beginning. The purpose of this quote is to expose the types of series the books are, as well as shine a dark light on the theme of death. The theme death progresses more and more from each book. From the first book, it goes from Harry Potter's parents dying to the last couple books, where Harry has to overcome the fact that death is the solution to getting rid of Voldemort, as well as Voldemort's death in the final book, as well as Harry Potter's quote-unquote deaths in the previous book, however he comes back to life. J.K. Rowling wants to inform the readers of the thoughts of death and mortality from her views and perspective throughout the series, and it shines a dark light on the reality that society has to go through.
My name is Jeremiah Daniels, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the character development that occurs in Harry Potter, the novel series by J.K. Rowling. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the big three heroes, which are Hermione Granger, Ron Weasley, and Harry Potter. I'm going to be starting with Hermione Granger, which is, Hermione starts out as this kind of know-it-all, thinks she's better than everyone kind of girl, like she's really condescending. But it's for a reason, because she comes from a family of muggles, which is like, she's like a mudblood, which everyone calls her. So that kind of like throws her off, because she thinks she has to make a great impression on the wizards in the wizarding world of Hogwarts. In the beginning, Harry and Ron didn't really like her because of this attitude. She was kind of like, you know, annoying, like no one likes to know it all. She really followed all the rules, never lied, anything like that, until one time she lied to a professor, which was Professor McGonagall. She lied to her about this giant troll, and that was kind of like a big step for her, because, you know, Hermione doesn't lie, Hermione doesn't mess up, Hermione's perfect. After this, like, we kind of see her, like, towards the end of the book, mature to where she finds out that friendship is, like, more important than being this perfect little child or having cares about what others think about you, so to say. Up next, we have Ron Weasley, who is the run of the litter, I would like to say. He also had the giant, like, well, not the giant, but the biggest character development, in my opinion. Ron grew up in a family of 7, having 5 brothers and 1 sister. So, and he was often overshadowed by Harry and Hermione throughout the book series as well. Ron, his family wasn't very rich or anything like that, but they were well known in the wizarding world. And so he kind of goes from this dorky, wimpy kid to this kid that kind of like steps up and protects his friend, you know. He was chosen to be in Gryffindor, which is kind of like the brave people, like, you know, you're badass and all that. For example, we see when Ron has to overcome his fear of arachnophobia and face Aragog, which is this giant spider with all these giant kids, and yeah, it's just a mess, because who likes spiders? We also see in the Sorcerer's Stone, whenever Ron volunteers himself, like, as a sacrifice to be, like, whacked in the head by this giant, like, chessman, I guess you could call it, you know. Up next, we're going to be talking about our main character, our hero, our favorite, you know, Mr. Harry Potter himself. So, Harry was this kid, you know, he grew up with his aunt and uncle and his cousin by the name Dudley Dursley. They were always really, really bad to him, you know. He had it hard, like, he got it out the mud for real. Basically, Harry, in the beginning, Harry was like 11 years old on his 11th birthday whenever he found out he was a wizard. So Hogwarts would always send these owls to drop letters to the mailbox or whatever you kind of call the little slit in the door. And Harry grabbed one at one time, and his cousin took it from him, gave it to his uncle. They read it and they didn't like that, so they kind of just shredded them, threw them away, and like the letters kept coming and coming and coming, and they didn't want Harry to see that he was invited to Hogwarts, so they kind of moved him to an island, you know, in the middle of nowhere, well, a lighthouse and everything. And then from that point on, Hagrid on his 11th birthday came in and kind of like rescued him from his cousin and his aunt and uncle. Told him, you know, the famous line we all know, "You're a wizard, Harry."
You're a wizard, Harry.
And from that point on, he attended Hogwarts, and he was always kind of seen as this kind of gifted child, being the son of, you know, James and I forgot his mom's name, but the Potters and everything, who died fighting the Dark Lord. The Dark Lord was Voldemort, and so once he gets to Hogwarts, he kind of finds out the truth about his parents' death and his ties to the Dark Lord, where the scar on his forehead came from, and all of this. And so Harry was always kind of this confident kid, you know, he always faced every challenge. And so, I mean, I didn't feel as if he really had much character development due to that, because, you know, he just grew in more confidence and, like, grew stronger, learned all the spells, became the hero of the wizarding world, Harry Potter, as we all know. And yeah, that's it.
For example, in the Deathly Hallows, like, she's kind of just like,